CEO exposed the truth when security searched a single dad's bag. What followed was incredible. Jack stood outside the sleek headquarters of the multinational firm, heart racing beneath his worn jacket. His dreams felt like fragile glass, ready to shatter at the slightest nudge. He couldn't shake the gnawing uncertainty. Could he really impress the bigwigs inside? His 2 kids depended on him, and the pressure weighed heavily on his shoulders. The memory of his wife tugged at him, a haunting reminder of the unrelenting struggle he faced. He had poured every ounce of hope into this meeting, yet self-doubt loomed, mocking his ambition. As he entered the futuristic building, a stark contrast to his humble appearance, he was struck by the polished corporate environment around him. Expensive suits glided by, each person exuding confidence while he felt like an imposter in a too small coat. Jack's mind raced. Would they take him seriously? He carried his design portfolio under one arm and a sacred drawing of his family by his daughter Bella in the other. The perfect encapsulation of his love, but also a reminder of the burden he carried alone. Security officers approached him, their demeanor businesslike as they began a routine bag check. Jack's stomach churned, the mixture of anxiety and the fear of exposing his vulnerabilities almost overwhelming. As they sifted through his belongings, they pulled out the colorful portrait. "What's this?" one guard asked, his voice void of empathy. Jack froze, cheeks burning as he recalled the soft laughter of Bella as she drew it. "Just something my daughter made for me," he mumbled, trying to mask the pride that bubbled inside. Suddenly, the imposing figure of Lisa, the firm's CEO, appeared at the edge of the scene, arms crossed, a sharp gaze locked on Jack. The undertone of her presence felt critical, dismissive. She rolled her eyes, assuming Jack was just another failure on a corporate dreamer spectrum. But as the guards handled the delicate portrait, Lisa's expression flickered. Curiosity sparked in her eyes as she leaned in closer to inspect the drawing. "What's the story behind this?" she asked, voice softer yet still authoritative. The question hung in the air like an unsaid challenge. Jack found himself unraveling the truth, sharing not just his aspirations but the heart-wrenching journey he had traversed since losing his wife. Voices fell silent around them, the hustle of corporate life reducing to background noise as Jack bared his soul. Could the firm see the value in his tenacity? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But the dreaded words arrived swiftly. "We'll be going in a different direction." Jack's heart sank. Rejection felt like a punch to the gut, sharp and unforgiving. He wrestled with inadequacy, the sting of bias evident in their decision. He thought he had bared enough of his struggle for them to see him, yet here he stood, discarded and unseen. As Jack left the building, the world outside felt different, a cacophony of doubts spiraling around him. Would his past define his future? Yet in the midst of despair, a flicker of realization ignited within him. His talent, his fight to provide for Bella and Sam, it all mattered. Shadows whispered uncertainty, but Jack clenched his fists, steadying himself for the road ahead. Could he rise above the prejudice chipping at his dreams? Tension coiled within him, the weight of expectations threatening to overpower his resolve as he trudged along the pavement, the horizon dimmer than before, with his family's needs echoing louder, urging him on. The streets blurred beneath Jack's hurried footsteps, a tapestry of muted colors reflecting his internal struggle. He fought against the urgency building within him. The rejection echoed in his head like a relentless drumbeat, each pulse igniting frustration and confusion. He had put everything on the line. Did his vulnerability warrant dismissal? As he settled into his old station wagon, Jack felt the familiar weight of home pulling at him. The scent of his children's crayons mixed with the remnants of fast food, a cluttered reminder of his attempts to engage with life. His grip on the steering wheel tightened, muscles coiling with determination. He needed to refocus, channel this pain into something productive. Returning home, Jack found the cacophony of the world receding. His children were the heartbeat of his being. They made the struggle worthwhile. Bella and Sam were sprawled on the living room floor, engaged in a whirlwind of art and imagination. In that moment, surrounded by their laughter and chaotic creativity, a new idea began to take shape. Instead of sulking in defeat, Jack would create a design project that embodied everything he had learned, everything he fought for. He envisioned crafting innovative, affordable furniture for families, pieces that wouldn't just fill spaces but would tell stories. Inspiration surged, filling the cracks left by rejection. With a renewed sense of purpose, he flipped open his portfolio and began to sketch. Each line traced not just furniture but his aspirations, his family's journey. He dreamed of launching a business that would prioritize the needs of single parents like himself. Every curve of the chair, every angle of the table, symbolized resilience. Days turned into weeks. The sketches evolved, and Jack threw himself into research, learning about sustainable materials and clever designs. He networked online, reaching out to local artisans willing to collaborate, each connection stemming from authentic outreach rather than obligatory corporate banter. Yet, doubt still crept into his psyche. During quiet moments, he would question his capability. Was he skilled enough? Could he navigate the turbulent waters of entrepreneurship without the corporate safety net? At times, these thoughts threatened to drown him. Then there were glimmers of progress. As Jack shared initial designs with friends and online communities, positive feedback turned the tide of his emotions. Each comment lifted his spirits, and the encouragement transformed mere dreams into palpable possibilities. He began to refine his business plan, wrapping it around his values of family, affordability, and creativity. But in the midst of all this, a nagging worry lingered: how would he fund this endeavor? The meager savings he had were meant to ensure Bella and Sam never went hungry. Could he risk it all, invest in himself? That question simmered, leaving him restless. Then one evening, while helping Bella with her homework, a thought struck him. His daughter's confidence in her artistic abilities could be a game changer. Why not bring her into the fold? He mused. If he involved his children in this new venture, it wouldn't just be a business, it would be a family legacy. But the reality of balancing their daily needs weighed down on him. Jack had to decide: was he ready to take the plunge and risk it all? The anticipation of involving Bella and Sam stirred something within him. It felt right. But could this dream lift him and his family, or would it crash down around them? As he prepared for the next phase, Jack faced the decision head-on. Would he take a step toward uncertainty, embracing the unknown potential of starting a business fueled by familial love? The time had come to decide. Would this new venture lead to success, or would he become just another statistic in the world of dreams deferred? Jack sat at the worn kitchen table, the clutter of crayons, half-finished homework, and haphazardly stacked newspapers surrounding him like an elaborate fortress of family life. Each breath felt heavier as the moment of decision loomed larger. He could hear Bella and Sam playing in the other room, their laughter a sweet reminder of what motivated him, their future. The idea of involving his children in the business was exhilarating but also terrifying. Would they truly find fulfillment in this venture, or would it burden them with pressures he faced himself? The delicate balance of parenthood and ambition swirled in his mind like a turbulent ocean, threatening to overwhelm him. In the days that followed, Jack found himself thrumming with unease. His sketches had transformed into a tangible concept, but the nagging doubt about finances stalked him. A small stack of bills lay waiting on the corner of the table, quietly demanding attention. The thought of risking their meager savings felt like a step onto quicksand. Late one night, as quiet enveloped the house, he opened his laptop and started drafting a pitch for potential investors. Each line was a confrontation with his insecurities. He had to convince strangers that his dream was worth their money. As he typed, he could feel the words wrestle against his self-doubt. Would they be able to see what he saw? He was startled from his reverie when Sam crept into the room. The little boy, rubbing his eyes, asked, "Daddy, are you working?" Jack paused, torn between the desire to shield his child from adult worries and the reality that he needed to set an example. "I am, buddy. Just trying to make something special for us." Sam nodded, his youthful understanding cutting through Jack's turmoil. "Can I help?" The question hung in the air, a lifeline thrown at just the right moment. His son's innocent enthusiasm reignited a spark in Jack. Together, they created a small production of art supplies, sketch pads, and child-friendly furniture designs tailored specifically for families. They sat side by side, Sam tracing his own designs, drawing chairs and tables with swirls and bright colors. The room was filled with the sound of laughter instead of the dreaded silence that had once gnawed at Jack. Involving his children wasn't just an act of solidarity, it was a way to teach them about resilience and creativity in the face of fear. Jack could see the impact his involvement had on them, their excitement bubbling over like boiling water, fueled by the opportunity to contribute to something larger. He had become not only a father but a mentor. With renewed commitment, Jack researched potential funding opportunities. Grants for family-owned startups, small business loans, community competitions. His fingers danced over the keyboard, a small smile breaking across his face as he uncovered new possibilities. But alongside this surge of motivation, a harsh reminder settled deep within him. His application needed to reflect not just his passion for furniture design but how deeply family was embedded in every aspect of it. The presentations would be crucial, meaningful storytelling woven into sketches and specifications. He breathed in deeply, a mixture of hope and anxiety swelling in his chest. This was more than furniture, it was about changing narratives, carving out a story in which he, Bella, and Sam were the protagonists, instead of victims of circumstance. But with each day, his resolve was challenged by whispers of doubt. Clara, an old colleague, had reached out to him, urging him to reconsider the steadiness of returning to corporate life. The contrasting choice sat heavily with him like a stone: return to the safety of a paycheck or risk everything on an uncertain path driven by love and ambition. The choice was looming closer, and Jack could feel the urgency pulse through him. Would he remain a bystander in his own life, or embrace the chaos of entrepreneurship? As he crafted his business pitch, there was no clear answer in sight, only questions that ignited the fire of urgency within him. Would he find enough courage to carve out a new identity, or would he be forever haunted by the what-ifs? The moment of truth was approaching. Time was slipping away. What lay ahead was uncertain, but he knew one thing: this was only the beginning. The sun peeked through the kitchen window the next morning, bathing the room in a soft glow that seemed almost hopeful. Jack's heart raced as he made his way to the table, a fresh sense of determination swelling within him. With each scrape of the chair against the floor, he felt a little more ready to dive headfirst into his pitch. He wasn't just sketching furniture, he was reshaping his life. He sat down, his laptop open, pages of notes sprawling out like a map of possibilities. Jack could almost hear Sam's excited laughter from the other room as he recalled the joy of their last session. They weren't merely designing furniture, they were crafting a narrative, one of resilience, creativity, and familial strength. But that didn't silence the voice echoing in his mind, which whispered that every business opportunity came with risk. In a moment of resolve, he set his fingers on the keyboard and began typing with a consuming vigor, sketching out narratives of warm family dinners, kids artfully drawing their dreams at the specially designed tables. The metaphorical brush of creative energy flowed through him, but that same current of fear consistently tugged at his sleeves. The question about investment loomed again, now magnified by the pressure of time. What if the investors had different visions? What if they couldn't see the soul stitched into each piece of furniture? The whirring of the laptop faded as he paused to dissect his feelings. That morning, he felt stronger than ever, but self-doubt was an insidious foe. Questions of whether he should dedicate all his time to this venture swirled inside him, now mingling with proclamations of determination. The corporate world seemed so much safer, a warm cocoon wrapped around him and promising stability. Yet the thought of returning to a world that detached him from his children felt unbearable. He was done feeling like a mere cog in a machine, he craved ownership of his life. Taking a deep breath, Jack made the conscious decision to confront these fears. He had to get out of the house. Ideas fragmented within the four walls of cramped kitchens were bound to feel suffocating. He grabbed his sketch pad and launched himself into the world outside, the faint scent of fresh coffee in the air guiding him forward. He parked himself at a local coffee shop with an ambience that buzzed with energy, transforming his anxiety into focus. Here, Jack could observe. Ideas danced around him in captivating colors, conversations about ambition, entrepreneurs forging their paths, families congregating around tables, their laughter ringing through the air. He scribbled notes furiously on napkins, capturing their essence, wondering what their stories were, how each individual had braved their own challenges. As the sun dipped low, a voice cut through the noise, jolting him from his thoughts. "Hey, isn't that Jack?" A familiar face emerged from the crowd, Clara. Bradshaw & Co.'s reputation preceded her into the room, her presence an unwelcome reminder of the safety he craved. They exchanged small talk, the usual pleasantries that turned tricky as Clara probed deeper into Jack's plans. "You know, the firm could really use someone like you again. Why take the risk?" she asked, tilting her head with genuine curiosity. Jack could feel his pulse quicken, a sharp kick of doubt threatening to undo the day's confidence. The question hung in the air, a gauntlet of sorts, testing his resolve to refuse the familiar comfort for a future woven from uncertainty. His mind whirled with possibilities. Would he stand firm on his dream, or would the allure of safety beckon him back into the corporate grind? The prospect of reverting felt like stepping backward, one Jack was determined to resist. Yet, as Clara's eyes searched for certainty in his response, the weight of her question grew heavier. Jack's mind was a roiling storm, a tempest of determination and fear. He had to make a choice. The moment had arrived where the lines would be drawn. And deep down, he could feel something shifting within him, a sense of urgency that felt like destiny. What would he tell Clara? How could he lay bare his truth without faltering? Would he find the words to declare his commitment openly, or would he find himself retreating into silence once more? As just enough light streamed through the window, the shadows of doubt began to whisper louder. Jack knew he would need to confront not just Clara, but the conflicting desires deep within himself. Time slipped away, and as tension mounted, he understood that the real test lay ahead, one that could redefine not just his career, but the very fabric of his life. Would he seize the moment, or let it evaporate like the steam from his cooling coffee? The answer hung in the air, the next chapter of his life waiting. Jack's heart pounded in his chest as he felt the pressure of Clara's gaze. The coffee shop buzzed with casual conversations and laughter, yet in that moment, he felt utterly isolated, like a spotlight had landed solely on him. The question she posed wasn't merely about his professional direction, it cut deeper, probing into the very core of his identity. Who was he, really? A safe executive, or a risk-taker following a passion? The moment dragged on like a bitter winter, his thoughts racing through the possible responses. In an impulsive surge, he leaned in towards Clara, partially fueled by fear and partly by his newfound resolve. "I can't go back. I've seen what matters to me now." The words felt foreign yet liberating as they left his lips. Clara's expression shifted slightly, a flicker of surprise momentarily breaking through her composed facade. "What do you mean?" she asked, her tone genuine, but Jack could sense the confusion lurking beneath it. How could he articulate the transformation unfolding within him? "I mean, this is about more than just furniture for me. It's about creating a space that brings families together, allows memories to bloom, and it's a chance for me to be present in my kids' lives." His voice steadied with every syllable, each word inching him closer to his truth. "Creating spaces sounds poetic, Jack, but how will you support your family? What about job security?" As the vehemence of reality crept back in, Jack felt the familiar stirrings of doubt rising within him. Despite the growing clarity in his vision, the specter of responsibility loomed, persistent and insistent. Jack briefly scanned the busy cafe, studying the faces engrossed in their own pursuits. Each person had their battles to fight, their dreams to pursue. Somewhere out there, someone prepared for their own radical change. He saw an old man sharing a laugh with a little girl, memories being crafted in real time, free from the shackles of corporate monotony. "I can't deliver the prudent safety of a 9-to-5, Clara. But I can offer authenticity and hope," he said as the words flooded from him, fueled by an emerging sense of purpose. He was becoming aware of the unrestrained power of his vision, the narrative he was weaving. "It's not just about protecting what I have, it's about cultivating what I want for my future and my children's future. And I can't do that from a boardroom. For the first time, he saw a flicker of understanding in her eyes, a vulnerability behind the business persona. "I get it," she replied softly, her head nodding approvingly. "But there are a lot of risks involved. Are you ready for that?" "More than I ever have been," Jack stated firmly, feeling the confidence settle in his core. He was ready to embrace the turbulence, the unknown. These conversations with Clara had peeled back layers he hadn't even realized were there. They illuminated the clearer choices to be made moving forward. With Clara's challenging questions still echoing in his mind, Jack took a deep breath. "What I need now is to channel this energy. I have my sketches, my concepts, and a burgeoning design that reflects a healing journey. But it's time to actually show them. Time to reach out to investors and make this real." The words hung between them, and he could sense a seismic shift. This wasn't just Jack reclaiming his narrative, it was a precursor to something much more significant. He hadn't faced merely the specter of corporate safe havens, he was fully confronting the possibility of failing in pursuit of genuine connections. As Clara offered her support, a new wave of urgency washed over him. The pitch was no longer just a presentation, it was an extension of his story. This was about crafting an experience that would weave together dreams and relationships in tangible forms. But doubts, like shadows at dusk, lurked ready to pounce on the hem of his newfound clarity. With the sun setting outside the cafe, Jack felt a weight lifting but knew other obstacles were on the horizon. Would he find the courage to present his work, to lay bare the intimacies of his creative journey in front of potential investors? The stakes felt impossibly high, but perhaps that desperation was the key to true growth. Would he soar to new heights or crash into the churning winds of fear? The next chapter of Jack's life beckoned, unearthing a question that could change everything. Was he willing to put everything on the line for his passion? The morning light poured into Jack's home office like a hopeful blanket, illuminating his vision board scattered with sketches and vibrant color palettes, remnants of the dreams that had ignited overnight. He had barely slept, and as he sipped his coffee, the weight of yesterday's conversation clung tightly to him. The daunting task ahead became evident. Reaching out to investors would require more than just passion. It demanded a refined strategy and a level of boldness he wasn't entirely sure he possessed yet. With a flare of determination, he flipped open his laptop to begin the daunting process of drafting a business proposal. Words sprang to life on the screen, but they felt stilted, awkward. He was navigating uncharted territory, grappling with the anxiety of financial insecurity while trying to maintain his emerging identity as a creator. Faced with a blank page, self-doubt flooded in, whispering insidious thoughts. "You don't belong here. Do you really believe they will invest in you?" Jack's hands hovered over the keyboard as he wrestled with his emotions. To silence the internal chaos, he closed his eyes and visualized what success could look like. A warm image of families gathering at beautifully crafted tables, sharing laughter and stories. This was what he fought for, a legacy that intertwined with family, connection, and authenticity. A heartbeat of purpose thumped steadily in his chest as he realized that his struggle wasn't just personal, it was universal. This resonated with others. He took a deep breath and focused on the structure of his proposal. What problem was he solving? He pictured himself standing in front of investors, crafted words spilling from him like art. He was about to blend practicality with passion, and this was the essence of his narrative. This journey was no longer solely about furniture, it was about transforming lives and nurturing connections. With newfound focus, Jack drafted an outline that was clear and compelling. But as he worked, his mind flitted back to Clara's probing voice. The risks, her words echoed. There was a chance he would fail, a truth stark and unavoidable. Yet somehow, the idea did not crush him as it once would have. Rather, it ignited a fire within, a resolve to confront those risks head-on. In the midst of productivity, Jack found himself pausing, contemplating the nature of fear itself. Wasn't the goal of creating a space for memories itself a risk? But then, what was any dream worth if it didn't come with its share of uncertainty? That realization was empowering. He began to write as if every word was an affirmation. This isn't just a venture, it's a movement. This is what I was made for. The sun climbed higher in the sky, casting a golden glow across his workspace, and Jack felt a surge of energy enveloping him. Willing himself to be vulnerable, he recorded every aspect of his vision on the page. By the time he had completed the draft, sweat beaded on his brow, fueled by both anxiety and the thrill of possibility. But what followed sent tremors through him, a revelation. He needed not only to craft his proposal but to also prepare for the moment he would pitch it. How would he convey his passion? How would he manage the fear of rejection? Those thoughts churned inside him, an ever-present storm gradually shaping his resolve. With shaky hands, he hit save on the document. It was only a draft, but it was a significant milestone. The undeniable truth settled within him: this was a leap of faith that could redefine him. Just then, his phone buzzed, breaking his concentration. Clara's name appeared on the screen, and his heart skipped a beat. "Hey, Jack. How's the preparation going? Remember, you don't have to do this alone." The unspoken words hung in the air, awakening a new question within him. Would seeking help diminish his claim to authenticity, or could it amplify his potential? Jack realized he had just taken the first step towards something greater than himself, but now he stood at a crossroads. He inhaled deeply and answered the call, knowing he had to confront not only the outside world but his own internal conflicts about collaboration and support. How far was he willing to go to pursue not just his dream but a passion shared with others? As he listened to Clara's voice and the questions unfurled, Jack felt the ground shifting beneath him, each moment pulling him deeper into his transformation. Would he embrace assistance, acknowledging the power of working together, or would he cling to the fragile illusion of doing it all himself? Jack felt himself teetering on the precipice of his own identity as he listened to Clara's encouraging tone. Her words were not just an offer of help, they were a challenge to dismantle the fortress he had built around himself. Could he truly allow himself to lean on someone, especially in the fragile phases of his endeavor? The thought sent a rush of anxiety through him, but it was laced with a strange exhilaration as well. Every moment he spent contemplating assistance revealed cracks in his facade of self-reliance. He realized he had been clinging to an outdated notion of independence, one that prioritized solitary achievement over shared success. Wasn't the essence of his vision centered around creation and connection? Jack had always perceived collaboration as a potential compromise of his creativity, a dilution of his authentic self. Yet, here he was, gripping the phone, battling the impulse to retreat and reject the partnership thrown before him. "Jack." Clara's voice broke through his spiral of thoughts. "Are you there?" "Yeah, sorry. Just thinking," he admitted, feeling the weight of uncertainty hang heavy in the air. What if I don't know how to collaborate effectively? What if it just complicates things? Or, she countered smoothly, what if it elevates your vision to places you can't reach alone? Bringing others in isn't about replacing your creativity. It's about enhancing it, expanding the possibilities. Her confidence served as a mirror reflecting his own apprehension. Deep-seated insecurities lurked beneath his yearning for success. Clara's perspective saw potential instead of liabilities, and Jack's ego was forced to confront his aversion to vulnerability. "I'll think about it," he managed, though uncertainty tinged every syllable. He hung up the phone, heart racing, forebrain ablaze, and sat in silence for a moment. The glow from his laptop screen illuminated the chaos of papers spread around him, sketches, unfinished thoughts, post-its filled with fears and aspirations. What he needed now was direction rather than more confusion, a plan to move forward instead of spiraling deeper into self-doubt. Jack decided to take the first step. He would not reject Clara's offer outright. Maybe he could set a casual meeting, a chance to see how she would approach the project. With a resolve quietly pacing through him, he began drafting an email, a message outlining potential next steps, mingled with a sense of trepidation and excitement. As he typed, he felt a rush of clarity. His heart beat steadily, a rhythm of newfound intent echoing in his being. Collaboration offered a different lens through which he could perceive not only his business but also his personal growth. The thought began to transform from fear to an invigorating challenge. He realized that creating a powerful narrative required navigating through the very discomforts that bloomed in collaboration. With a final flourish, he sent the email and sighed deeply, letting the weight of indecision fall away. But the questions danced still. How far would he stretch his boundaries? What parts of his authenticity would survive the invitation to collaboration? Jack understood that this was more than just business. Each step toward working with another forced him to confront the fabric of who he was becoming. Within that freedom to evolve, he stumbled upon his next dilemma. The very act of asking for help meant shedding a protective layer, exposing vulnerabilities he had long shielded. Was he ready to bare his aspirations to someone else, risking rejection, or maybe even judgment? Suddenly, the stakes felt high and personal. The realization hit him like waves crashing against a shore. Seeking support didn't erase his identity, it redefined it. But facing those initial steps ignited fear within him, urging him to question his resolve. How would he navigate the complexities of partnership while holding on to his creative essence? As twilight gathered outside his window, Jack realized he stood at a crucial juncture. He could either shrink back into the shadows of self-reliance, or take a leap into an uncharted territory of possibility. The choice was his, and the time was fast approaching for him to draw courage from that choice. He thought about the meeting with Clara and how he would articulate not only his vision but his fears and expectations. How would he present his work while being open to feedback? This was the moment where passion would either succumb to vulnerability or be enhanced by it. With trembling fingers, he prepared to make that move, contemplating the journey ahead, just when another thought flickered in his mind: if he decided to open those doors, would he still retain his voice amid collaboration? The question lingered, thickening the air around him. It was time to face whatever awaited him, but who would he be at the end of this exploration? Would he ultimately emerge stronger, or would the act of opening up fracture his resolve? Jack took a deep breath, the weight of purpose coiling tightly within his chest. He was ready to confront those fears and take that first step. But the horizon loomed, filled with uncertainty. Would he embrace the chaos of this change, or would he forge ahead under the weight of his doubts? As night settled in, so began a new chapter in his journey, and the stakes felt impossibly high. Jack arrived at the cafe, his nerves thrumming beneath the surface of his skin as he pushed open the door. The scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with faint notes of pastries, but the comforting aroma only heightened his anxiety. He was still cloaked in self-doubt, a tension knotting his stomach as he recalled Clara's optimism. How could he open up to someone about his struggles when he was unsure himself? Seizing a small corner table, he glanced at his notes. The paper felt heavy with anticipation, each bullet point a representation of his fears and ambitions. What if his ideas weren't as brilliant when exposed to scrutiny? And what if Clara's feedback shattered the fragile edifice of self-belief he had built? Moments ticked by, the walls of the cafe echoing the conversations of patrons while Jack tried to steady his thoughts. This was his first chance to engage in collaboration, and already he was spiraling into the familiar abyss of overthinking. He pulled out his phone, checking the time. Clara would arrive soon, and with each passing moment, the knot in his stomach tightened. Then he spotted her walking in, a warm smile spreading across her face as she scanned the room. Jack felt a flicker of familiarity wash over his anxious thoughts. As she approached, he could see her enthusiasm radiating, untainted by his own internal struggles. "Hey, Jack. Glad we could meet." Clara settled into the chair across from him, her energy palpable. She wasted no time diving into conversation, her eyes sparkling with passion. "I've been thinking about your ideas, and I can already envision how we can take this further." Jack nodded, the weight of her anticipation both supportive and suffocating. "Yeah, I wanted to discuss what I have so far," he began, his voice a tinge hesitant. With each word, he laid bare his vision, explaining the core of his project, the myriad of ideas swirling in his mind. Yet, as he spoke, he could feel the tension in his shoulders, the weight of vulnerability made his throat constrict. Clara listened intently, her responses insightful and probing, guiding Jack to areas he hadn't fully explored. "You're passionate about this, and it shows," she said, prompting him to delve deeper. But a nagging voice persisted, questioning whether he was revealing too much, stretching himself thin. Midway through the conversation, Clara paused, leaning forward as if to breach a deeper topic. "Jack, what are your fears here? What's making you feel like you have to guard your ideas so much?" Her inquiry felt like a spotlight shining directly on the fears he had harbored for so long. "I guess I'm afraid that collaboration will dilute my voice," he admitted, the words tumbling out before he could pull them back. "I've always done things on my own, and it's hard to imagine integrating someone else's thoughts into my work." Clara's expression softened, and she responded thoughtfully. "But think of it this way, collaboration doesn't mean you lose your voice. It amplifies it. You're still at the helm, directing the ship." Her perspective chipped away at his rigid beliefs, revealing an opening he hadn't expected. The warmth of her understanding created a safe space, a sanctuary where he could articulate his thoughts without fear of judgment. Something within him began to shift, the fear that had gripped him loosened its hold, if only slightly. As Clara continued discussing how they might merge their ideas, Jack could feel a burgeoning excitement intertwining with lingering apprehension. What if this partnership not only enhanced his project but also unraveled layers of his identity he had long kept hidden? Feeling emboldened, he decided to push through the discomfort. "Okay, let me show you what I have sketched. And I'm open to suggestions, even if they push against my initial ideas." Jack laid the sketches out before her, the raw expressions of creativity transformed into something potentially collaborative. Clara leaned in, her focus sharp as she analyzed the work. Jack watched her closely, both engaged and anxious, waiting for her feedback to crystallize his path forward. In that moment, he felt a mix of vulnerability and strength, acknowledging that stepping into the unknown might pave the way for an evolution he hadn't dared to imagine before. The stakes were indeed high, but now, they carried the weight of potential rather than fear. As they delved into the details of his sketches, Jack found himself increasingly curious. If he allowed this collaboration to flourish, what other aspects of himself might he uncover that had been buried under layers of fear? Would he be brave enough to explore every thread this partnership could pull him through? The notion ignited a rare thrill within him, a hint at the transformation lying just ahead. Clara's enthusiasm and insight were keys to doors he had long kept locked. But as the conversation deepened, Jack felt another question forming, one that resonated ominously in his mind. If he embraced this partnership, would he be ready to face the intertwined challenges of independence and collaboration, or would he struggle to reclaim his identity amidst the merging tides? The moment was poised, the air around them buzzing with possibility, as Jack prepared to navigate through the uncharted waters that lay ahead. Jack's sketches lay on the table like a fragile promise, each line representing not only his ideas but also the threads of his identity. Clara leaned in closer, her enthusiasm a stark contrast to his simmering anxiety. She studied the drawings intensely, the light in her eyes reflecting a genuine engagement that both comforted and unsettled him. As she began to offer her thoughts, Jack realized he was no longer just an observer in this collaboration. Clara's insights felt like a lifeline, pulling him out of the murky waters of self-doubt. "I love how you've approached this section with such raw emotion," she stated, pointing to a unique concept he had sketched. "But have you considered how we can push this idea even further? What if we add more layers? It could create a visual narrative that resonates more deeply with the audience." He felt his breath hitch. Her suggestions were powerful but posed a challenge. Could he truly integrate her perspectives without losing his essence? As his mind raced through potential revisions, his apprehension began mingling with curiosity. What if he allowed her vision to intertwine with his? Clara's words ignited a mingling of hope and fear inside him. She was right, a collaboration could amplify his voice if he allowed it to. He straightened his posture, the weight of self-imposed limitations starting to lift. "I've never thought about my work in that way. What if it were a story in itself?" He mused, the sentence forming in the heart of possibility. "Exactly. A journey, something people can immerse themselves in," Clara beamed, her excitement contagious. This was their first encounter, Jack's first real foray into collaboration, yet her belief in his potential made him reconsider his previous trepidations. Jack allowed himself to dive deeper, exploring the threads of their conversation. He found the contours of his thoughts morphing under Clara's encouragement, broader than he could have envisioned alone. "But if we shift my original idea, there's a risk it could turn into something I don't recognize," he said, wrestling with the fragile boundaries of his creativity. "Risk is part of growth," Clara replied, her voice steady yet impassioned. You'll always have the foundation of your original vision. Think of it this way: if it doesn't resonate, you can always refine it again. With each exchange, Jack felt pieces of himself awaken. The realization hit him: his fear of collaboration was, in part, a fear of evolution. He was clinging to what was familiar instead of embracing the evolving nature of creativity. There, in the warmth of the cafe amidst strangers, he sensed a paradigm shifting within him. The sketches became living documents, each stroke a testament to exploration. Jack gestured towards a rough draft, and Clara leaned in eagerly, ready to dissect it alongside him. Let us make this interactive. What if we involve potential audiences in the early phases? Their feedback could guide us and serve as an essential part of the development process. Testing engagement before finalizing, Jack echoed, impressed by the prospect. He often feared rejection, but Clara seemed to illuminate an avenue of resilience amidst criticism. That actually sounds brilliant, he whispered, not fully aware of the smile that spread across his face. As they expanded on the ideas, Jack felt an undercurrent of determination. He began to notice hidden desires surfacing within his thoughts, a longing to create not just for himself but with others in a way that challenged his comfort zone. Each conversation fused his creative ambitions with a newfound sense of purpose. But beneath this burgeoning confidence, a whisper of doubt lingered. What would happen when the project took form? Would the path ahead be as energizing when faced with the fallout of collaboration? As exhilarating as these early discussions were, he couldn't ignore the looming specter of conflict. His identity would be scrutinized before an audience, a test he hadn't prepared for. The excitement of the partnership was tempered with the fear of exposure. Would he truly be able to navigate the complexities of this shared journey? Something within him ached to leap into the unknown, yet another part clung to the familiar. Would letting go of his singular vision lead to liberation, or would it turn into an entrapment of self-sabotage? The air became thick with creative tension, an energy charged with questions yet to unfold. Clara's focus didn't waver as she jotted down ideas, her assumptions as clear as glass. Meanwhile, Jack's thoughts whirled in a cacophony of beginnings, each possible path branching into a dizzying array of choices. As the cafe hummed around them, he faced the unrelenting question of his journey. What would it truly mean to forge a new identity amidst collaboration? Could he truly balance his own voice within this symphony of shared creativity? Jack knew he was at a crossroads, and he had to make a decision. Would he hold fast to his individual ambitions, or risk everything for the chance at something greater? The stakes were high, and the next steps could determine not only the outcome of the project but also the very essence of who he was becoming. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of creativity and collaboration, a stunning transformation fueled by Jack's newfound openness to risk. Clara became an integral part of his journey. Together, they forged a dynamic partnership that elevated Jack's vision to unprecedented heights. It was exhilarating. No longer did he operate from a place of fear. Jack was now sculpting stories with every piece he designed. The unique furniture concepts began to take shape, each piece merging functionality with heartfelt narratives, reflecting the joys and struggles of family life. Jack felt more alive than ever, immersed in a flow of ideas that danced between buzzing conversations in the cafe and the quiet creativity blooming in his home. The studio became a realm of vibrant laughter as he and Clara engaged potential customers, gathering input and feedback with a fervor he had never anticipated. Together, they hosted workshops where families participated in co-creating designs that carried their own stories. Months of hard work culminated in a showcase event, where their collaborative effort, their very essence, was finally laid bare for the world to see. As Jack stood there, watching families engage with the pieces they had been working on, he felt a surge of pure pride. He had achieved something profoundly significant, not just a business launch but a movement rooted in connection. Standing in front of the crowd, he felt the familiar pang of anxiety resurface, yet this time, it was ignited by anticipation rather than fear. Clara nudged him, offering quiet encouragement. Together, they presented their journey and the heart behind each piece, creating a tapestry of stories that resonated deeply with the audience. The moment felt electric, as Jack recognized he was no longer just a designer, he was a storyteller, leading others on a journey of home and family. People responded to their work with overwhelming enthusiasm, each interaction fueling Jack's burgeoning confidence. As he watched families gather around the furniture, discussing memories that would be forged in those very spaces, sense of accomplishment washed over him. He had not only proven himself, but he also demonstrated the transformative power of vulnerability. His vulnerability had invited others to share in the creation of something truly meaningful. After the event, the feedback poured in, validating every leap of faith that had led Jack to this pinnacle. Investors expressed enthusiasm, eager to support the burgeoning vision, securing the future of his project and affirming that his desire to create had struck a chord with others. The moment he had held on to so desperately was finally within reach: recognition. Clara smiled knowingly as they reveled in the celebratory atmosphere, and Jack realized that collaboration had been the key, unlocking vague hopes hidden beneath self-doubt. Reflecting, Jack discerned how far he had traveled, once feeling like an imposter, now possessing a solid presence in the industry, grounded in confidence. No more burdens of inadequacy defined him. He was equipped with the tools and connections necessary to advocate for the message he inherently understood: family matters. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, bathing the room in a warm glow, Jack felt nothing but gratitude for the transformations that had unfolded. He had conquered his fears, expanded his horizons, and discovered an identity deeply attached to collaboration and authenticity. His vision had transcended mere objects. It had become a legacy built with his children and communities in mind. In the quiet that followed the whirlwind, Jack understood the profound truth he had unearthed: success was not a solitary achievement, but a symphony enhanced by the voices of others. He had built bridges without losing himself, emerging confidently as a leader and innovator. With practical insight and heartfelt intent, he had stirred the hearts of families, crafting furniture that encompassed stories and experiences rather than mere functionality. He had transformed his initial setbacks into stepping stones, creating an entrepreneurial journey that encapsulated resilience, love, and triumph, illuminating the path for others navigating similar challenges. Jack was ready to embrace the future, equipped with the knowledge that the power of vulnerability paired with the willingness to collaborate would lead to greater success than he had once dared to imagine. This was just the beginning, and he was prepared to soar. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.